This is Eric, coming to you from the new Luna showroom, which is actually brand new for us. We're 6 years in operation and we've never had our own retail showroom, and it's been kind of an amazing moment for me just to see all of our bikes together in one place. And today we put them all together to make a lineup, and I figured it'd be a good time to make a video on about our entire bike lineup and which bikes you should buy of ours, which bikes, no matter what anybody says, every bike has its advantages and disadvantages. And that includes with our bike lineup as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about it. And first of all, let me give some generalities about all of our bikes. All of our bikes are badasses. Everything is very powerful and scary fast. So they all use mid-drives. They all use top grade components. None of these could be argued that they're using Walmart bikes with engines on them. We make sure that the bike itself is always high quality brakes, quality shifters. All of our bikes have gears except for the Sur-ron, which isn't our branded bike, but the Sur-ron doesn't have gears. It's the only non-pedal bike we sell. Everything else has pedals. So I'm very, very proud of the lineup. They're all black, and I kind of wanted that just so that I someday could show you guys my whole lineup here and be proud. They're all black and badass, and let's go. So I'm going to start with the Rhino. This is really what started it all for us. This bike was actually a bike that I built for myself as a hobbyist and designed all the fixtures, and we had all this welded for us, and it's a crazy ambitious bike. And I remember this bike almost bankrupted me personally and made me start Luna, because I had hundreds of these frames and I couldn't get parts for this bike. I couldn't get affordable motors. There was a lot of gouging at the time from vendors. Batteries were ridiculous. I had somebody sell me just 10 batteries for this so that I would do an article on them for electricbike.com. I did the article. They didn't want to sell me any more batteries besides for the 10. So that forced us to become battery manufacturers, to make our own batteries, to make our own, you can see it in here, we started with our CNC shop way back in the beginning. We made the sprocket, we made these CNC parts that hold the cyclone motor on the bike. And this bike really kicked our ass in a lot of ways, but we definitely became a better company by selling this bike. This is the Rhino. And the reason why it's significant is it is coming back this year. We're going to bring it back because I love it. It's got, it's a cargo fat bike with a big battery and a big powerful motor, and we're going to be offering this again by the end of this year. Next, we'll take a look at our Galaxy bike. And what happened from there for Luna was we started out selling the BBS HD kits. You can see those right here. So we were selling kits and we didn't have a decent battery source, so we started making our own batteries, and we became a battery factory and we sold the BBS HD kits. So naturally our first bikes, besides for the Rhino, were conversion bikes where we would take KHS bikes or we would take giant bikes and we would convert them into badass electric bikes. Well, none of the suppliers could keep up with our demands. KHS would always run out of bikes by the time the end of the year was up, and we wanted to keep selling bikes. So what we did is we started making our own fat bikes, or having these made in Taiwan. And this is our Galaxy fat bike. And what it is our version of the KHS 3000. It uses the Bluetooth fork in the front, not a full suspension. It's what we call a hardtail. And I prefer that rather than have, if we have the option of crappy suspension or no suspension, I prefer no suspension. So this one, we really didn't have a good option for rear suspension, so we just have a really nice Bluetooth fork in the front. And you'll see that in all of our bikes that we don't use cheap front suspension forks. You won't see that off of us, just so we can say our bike has front suspension. I'd always rather use no suspension than crappy suspension. I think it's one of our key ethos. But you can see here, we have like great components on this. It has like top of the line, not top of the line, but pretty good SRAM Eagle gear sets on it. Then it has a Tektro brakes, which are as low end as we get. Tektro brakes, we usually like to use Shimano's or whatever, but Tektros work fine. They have e-brake cutoffs. And basically what this is our Wolf battery that we make here. our motor, the BBS HD motor, which is Bafang's motor, and we got our controller on it, which is the Ludicrous V2, which is something new for this year, which we're offering on all our production bikes, which all the BBS HD bikes, and soon for all the M600 bikes, which what it does is it doubles the power. And this controller we designed and we made here in the United States. And the thing is that that's where I think we really differ as a company, is that we, since we have manufacturing capacity, we hire engineers over salespeople, we have our own machine shop, we have our own battery lab. We can do things that other companies don't do because we can offer a product that's unique, that even when it's not our motor, we can add value by doing our sprockets, these sprockets we make as well in our machine shop. And this is something like we aim to do from the very beginning. And I'm pretty proud looking at our lineup how far we've come. The other thing I want to say is that all of our bikes have big batteries, fast. We offer them all with the Ludicrous upgrade, which is like 2,000 watt upgrade, which is pretty remarkable on bikes of this size. Okay, so anyways, this is basically a conversion bike, and this is kind of our evolution. And the advantage of this guy is that the BBS HD is a really known solid motor. Like when you look at some of the other bikes that are sexier looking, the motors can be a little more delicate and you can't put as much power as you can through the BBS HD. The BBS HD, we've been selling it for 5 or 6 years. It's how we started. So the parts are really easy to come by. We've upgraded a lot of the parts inside this motor. Like for example, the nylon gear now we make out of PE plastic, which makes it twice as strong. And it's one of the weak points in the motor. And we know what will fail, and we usually have all the spare parts for this motor in stock and been doing it for a long time. So a lot of people just want the BBS HD. It doesn't look as sexy, but it's like a workhorse and it gives people what they want. And it kind of transformed the do-it-yourself market because it really does take the place of heavy hub motors bikes. It makes your bike fast like a hub motor and without having all the excess weight. The reason why I don't like hub motors is it's a lot of weight in the wheel. And it makes the bike unbalanced. It makes it terrible for off-road riding. And the mid-drives here, like the BBS HDs and also the M600s that we sell, what they do is they offer the silence and the reliability and the power of a hub motor, even more power, and you're allowed to go through the gears. All of our bikes have gears, where you can, not only are you pedaling, but you can also the motor is spinning faster, for example, when you shift down into a lower gear. So when you're climbing a hill, you pedal in a lower gear, and then the motor works a lot less hard, and it makes the motor more reliable. So having gears and it makes the motor so it can be smaller. And that's a big thing. And the other thing I want to say about all of our bikes in general, I forgot to say it before, is they all have throttles. And they all have pedal cadence sensors or torque sensors so that you can either pedal the bike or throttle the bike, but you'll find that a lot of mid-drive bikes are made for the European market and they don't have throttles. And with throttles, you get that whole motorcycle feel. We like to use thumb throttles over twist throttles because of the whole whiskey throttle thing. So, it's just, so having the convenience of a throttle plus the pedal cadence just makes the bike so versatile. So anyways, this is the Galaxy bike, and next we'll take a look at the Banana. And the Banana is another example of bikes that we have brought in by the container and install our kits on them here. So they use our battery. I'll bring this one out. They use our battery, and you can see it has the BBS HD motor, which is our workhorse motor, and then it has our sprocket, and you have the option of adding the Ludicrous controller. This is the V2 controller. It puts out 2,000 watts, and it's so smooth. It's a sine wave controller. Like I said, we had one of our engineers design this. We're very proud of it, and we're also going to be offering that on the M600 to all of our former customers and future customers of the X1 bike. So again, this is basically a conversion bike. And we start with a bike called Coast Cycles, and this is an award-winning bike made in Taiwan. It won some big Taiwan design show. And we looked at a lot of Chinese alternatives to this bike. You can see a lot of them on the market right now. There's a lot of companies selling this bike. We started out and from the very beginning selling these way before anybody else was, 3 or 4 years ago. But when you look at the quality of the welds and the quality of the paint, you just can't touch I haven't seen a bike do it better than Coast Cycles does. Plus they use, quality wheels, quality components. Their design is just top notch. It's just beautiful. And we've had a number of Chinese companies show us their versions of this, and it always just looks kind of crappy. So we've always stuck with this company and have been a big vendors of theirs. They come and visit us a lot. We sell more Coast Cycles than anybody, I think. And if we were going to sell this as a bicycle, the bicycle itself would be like $800. So, it cost us a lot of money. We put our kit on it. We sell it at a reasonable markup. We don't have dealers, so, we're able to sell something like this for, I forget what the retail price is, but it's a reasonable price for the quality of bike you're getting. And so now I'll show you our next fat bike, and this is like a new chapter for us. And this is a Galaxy fat bike, not the Galaxy, this is the Babe. And this is kind of an example of a bike that went a little wrong for us because of one component that we could have done better on. And I love belt drives. This has a belt drive. It has a Gates belt drive system. And the thing about it, it has the M600. You start to see our purpose-built frames, where this is a frame made to be an electric bike. In this case, it's aluminum. It's not as sexy looking as the X1 is, but we can offer it at a cheaper price point because in terms of the X1, most of the price you're seeing is because of the carbon frame. It adds a lot to our costs, so we have to pass that on. And so you can see that this one, we love the belt drive, but we want all of our bikes to have gears. So we used a new 3-speed from this company. I forget what they're called, but the 3-speed ends up not being very reliable. Like, it's a little too delicate for an electric motor. So we weren't able to do ludicrous mode on this bike. And also we had a lot of people, like if you're riding it in the wrong gear, this one can end up problematic and give you problems. So, and I don't kind of want to do it. We could change it to single speed, but I kind of don't want to do that. And our options are very limited when you have a fat bike wheel, what kind of internal gear system you can do. And of course, since it's a belt drive, the only type of transmission we can do is internally geared. So this is one of those things where we have to decide if we're going to still sell the bike or we're going to offer it as a single speed. I think it might be fine, but it goes against our ethos of selling only mid-drive bikes with gear chains on them. What I'm hoping is a new 5-speed comes out, or 3-speed transmission that's more solid than this one, and and also that we get better support where they'll work with us to make it work with our bikes. And so far nothing like that exists except for the roll-off, but the roll-off cost us $1,000. Roll-off is a German internal gear hub with 14 speeds, and I got on my bike. I love it, but not everybody wants to add that kind of money just for the transmission. So let me talk about the fix. This is a bike that really did work out for us. And by the way, the M600s, that was an M600 bike. They all have torque sensors. That's a big selling point of those. And that's a big feature of those over the BBS HDs, and that they measure how hard you're pedaling, not just how fast you're pedaling. So a lot of people say that's the bee's knees. And all that. It used to be a big selling point of why people would say their bikes were better because they have torque sensors. I don't necessarily believe torque sensors are a big deal, especially on very powerful bikes like ours. But it's a selling point. I think cadence sensors work just as well. And anyways, here's the fix. Talking about torque sensors, my favorite part of this bike is how well the torque sensor works. This has a torque sensor as well. It's a completely different motor system than what we normally sell, but it works really well on this bike. Now this has a unique thing is that it's our lowest power bike. I think this one's like 400 or 500 watts. It's definitely low power. For that reason, it has a 3-speed, and you can see how small that thing is in the back. And in this case, it holds up fine to the bike's power. So we're not doing crazy power through this bike. And I kind of regret we called this the fix. It's not a fixie bike. It does have brakes, and it does, handle like a regular bike. We called it fixed because of like fixing a contest or something. It's like a cheater's bike kind of, and what we like the most about this one is how stealthy it is. The really unique thing is that it has a battery pack built into this tube, and this is a perfect example of how all electric bikes have drawbacks and pluses. Why didn't we make this bike super fast? We can't because of that tiny battery pack. And of course it has a tiny battery pack, so it's not going to have the range as the other bikes have. So that's kind of the give and take you get. So it looks really sexy, and a lot of vendors, what they'll do is there's a lot of bikes like this on the market there's one popular one I won't mention, but it's a kids Kickstarter project, and it has a hub motor, which is totally different quality. And they'll just claim their bike has a 30, 40 mile range, and they don't. When they have tiny batteries like this, they're not going to have, very long range. They require a lot of pedaling. This bike doesn't, like I said, it's our only bike without a throttle, but it's sexy looking. It's great for getting out and exercising. It's one of the bikes I love to ride because it's impossible to just go right up that top of that hill without putting an investment into it. It's going to take some of the bike and a lot of your power as well to get up that hill. Whereas our other bikes, you could just throttle up a hill, no problem. So it's kind of a different experience, like riding a bike with no throttle. If you're not very disciplined like myself, it's a great way to get in shape, because whenever I have a throttle, I end up just riding full throttle all the time and not pedaling as much. But this is the bike I take out for exercise. You notice it has no suspension. I'd rather have that than crappy suspension, just so we can say it has suspension. It looks really nice. It's a road bike, so it doesn't require, it doesn't really require that you have a lot of suspension on it. And it has that, that really hipster look to it. And, I think it should be more popular than what it is, but a lot of people buy bikes by the numbers. And they say, oh, it doesn't have the range, it's not as fast, it doesn't put out as many watts, but it is a really nice bike. For what it is. It's a beautiful bike. I'm really surprised it's not a better seller for us, but we don't do a great job of marketing it either. Okay, so let me show you our most popular bike, talking about bikes that are good sellers, and that's the X1. And the X1 is just a killer bike. We're really proud of this. And this is a full carbon fiber bike. And this is kind of our answer when I saw the new Specialized bikes, and the new Giant and the new Trek bikes. I figured we needed an answer for that in the future. A video out there that Matt Richards did comparing this to the Specialized bike. We had the Specialized bike here for a while. We got to try it. We got to try its torque sensor, all this stuff. And this bike has a torque sensor. It has all those features, but it's a fraction of the price. So what's amazing about this bike is its price, and ironically, one of its downsides is its price, because to build something like this is very expensive. So even though it's half the price of what a Specialized bike would cost, or even less than half the price. Some of the new Specialized bikes are $15,000, which is crazy. This one's $3,800 or $3,700, and you really get a lot for that money. You get a full carbon fiber frame, get top of the line components. It has rock shocks up front, rock shocks in the rear, and then it has the SRAM Eagle components system, which is very nice. And then it has the Guide 4 brakes on it, which are also very nice hydraulic brakes. So with this kind of spec on this bike, even to buy a pedal bicycle with no electric motor, you'd be looking at a couple $1,000s easily. So this one at $3,500 with the motor, with the battery, and the battery's built into the frame. So it's pretty stealth. So it's no wonder that this is a bike that we sell a lot of, that we have a hard time keeping in stock, because it really just hit a sweet spot. And I remember when we came up with a price for this bike, we could have easily charged $5,000 for it. But it wouldn't have made nearly as big of a splash as we're selling it. I think when we first brought it out, we sold it for $36,000. Now a lot of these bikes like this one, because we're selling so close to our cost, you'll see the price start to go up in the next 6 months or so because of COVID and all the shortages we're seeing. So this bike might very well be over $4,000 within a few months, because we just can't, because we're selling so close to our price point of what we get them for. We can't really, if our prices rise, we're going to have to elevate the price. And I think this is one of the bikes that will go up in cost. But anyways, this bike really hit a nerve, I think, with a lot of people, because It's a powerful bike. We can ludicrous it for 2,000 watts. We're going to be offering a V2 controller soon, which will do all the nice sine wave things that we're doing with BBS HD. It has a color display. It has, you know, a big advantage over ours, like to the Specialized bike, is you have a throttle. And riding with the throttle is just like amazing. And if you've ever rode a bike with a throttle like this and then go to a bike like a Specialized with a Levo motor and no throttle, it's like really like wearing a condom compared to going condomless on this. Like, it really makes a huge difference. And the reason why those bikes don't have throttles is not only the legalities in Europe, but also because once you add a throttle, you know, the drive has to be a lot more rugged to put up with people throttling it in the wrong gear. You know what I mean? And our drives are strong enough to put up with that. But usually when you have problems with mid drives, it's a result of people who don't know how to shift, because it's just the nature of the beast. Most people who ride electric bikes never rode a bicycle, so they don't know, oh, when you're going up a hill, you don't want to be shifting gears, you know, while you're riding up the hill, stuff like that. You know, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff that's hard on the drivetrain. And for that reason, you'll hear a lot of people don't know what they're talking about, that mid drives are hard on chains and hard on cassettes. It's really not on high quality bikes like this with quality chain, quality components. We're not seeing a lot of this stuff come back with strip gears and stuff like that. That's just for people who are not riding correctly. But anyways, this bike is probably our most popular bicycle, and for good reason. It's just a killer bike at a killer price. The drawback to it, it's just expensive. You know, I mean, you could save a lot of money by buying something without the fancy suspension, without the carbon fiber, and but it's one of the best values. So now I'll go and start showing you our flagship bikes. I want to go through real quickly how we came to do this. Early on in the company, we were being approached by all kinds of marketeers like Facebook, stuff like this. We were giving Facebook a lot of money at the time for advertising, and people were saying we should double or triple that. And it's what most electric bike businesses are doing, is focusing on marketing. And I said, instead of spending money on marketing, we're going to spend money on building what I call the best bikes ever. And the Apex and the Apollo were really my inspiration to get people's attention by just building something really amazing. And when I look at those bikes now, I can't believe we designed these bikes. We did them in SolidWorks. We had several prototypes made, and we built what I believe are the best bikes ever. And they're expensive because they're so nice. So we'll start with the Apex. And the Apex uses the Ren fork, first of all, and I'm proud of that because I met him at Interbike, and he's an American company, so we prefer to support American companies whenever we can. It's, at the time, the best fat bike suspension we can find. There's really not many options for fat bike suspensions. Really, this is a fat bike, and you'll see like the carbon rims. This one has the 14-speed roll-off in the back we were talking about, you know, to where you can get really high top speeds because it has 14 speeds and a huge difference between the low gears and the high gears. It's German made. We're an OEM supplier of roll-offs, so we get them at a great price, but it's still, you know, our cost is over $1,000 on that. So, you know, it adds a lot to the price of the bike, but I think it's worth it. But, you know, with the roll-off and the carbon rims, this bike can get very expensive, but you're getting something really special that not many people have. It really is a piece of work, a piece of art. I was inspired by the Audi ebike, which was a vaporware bike that was out a few years back, and I really wanted something that good. And, you know, it's really, really a beautiful bike. It could, you know, like, and I'm really proud we did it. And, you know, it has quality suspension all the way around. The carbon fiber work is just amazing. We prefer to sell this bike with the carbon fiber showing because it's so beautiful. And the battery we build in-house, it has a, I believe it's a 20 amp hour battery using top cells, and it's a wire bonded pack. And we're really, really proud of this bike and consider it, you know, our flagship bike. Now, the disadvantage, of course, is it's going to be expensive. It uses the Ultra motor, which I haven't mentioned so far. The Ultra motor is a fairly big motor. It's made out of magnesium just for us. We're the only vendor in the world that gets that, because that was a favor that the owner of Bafang did for me when I visited China. Is our drives are made out of magnesium. It saves a couple of pounds, but what it does, the motor is really nice. The pedal assist works really well, but it is big and big looking compared to M600. So the drawback of this bike is it screams electric bike, whereas a bike like the X1 is more, subdued, and you can actually ride this on the trails and people not know that you're riding an electric bike. This is, hell yeah, I'm riding an electric bike, and I'm riding the best electric bike. How's that? So it's a different effect. I mean, personally, if you're nearby in LA, we do have these in stock. We sell these to a lot of rock stars. There's a couple of famous people who have one. Will.i.am just sent me a picture recently of him on his. There's like a small group of celebrities that come in here and they get Apexes. And there's a reason why. If you can afford it, it's really a nice bike, and it's really a beautiful statement. And then, and also we did these in 3 sizes. And when we first did the Apollo, it only had 1 size. This year we have 3 sizes. So Ramsey, can we get the Apollo? And the Apollo is our next flagship bike. And what the Apollo is when we did the Apex, it was kind of a crazy design, and we weren't even sure, how people were going to like it, if they were going to criticize us for doing something so different. So I decided to also do the Apollo, which is the same idea as the Apex, but it's more of a traditional bike. It has a traditional geometry. It's kind of a, I forget, it's got the, it's more like a regular mountain bike, and geometry-wise. So, and it's got the 6 inches of suspension on the front and the rear, and it has the same battery as the Apex, and it's all carbon fiber. And when I'm saying all carbon fiber, that includes a swing arm too. And for people who know carbon fiber bikes, it's more expensive and harder to do a carbon fiber swing arm. A lot of companies, they'll just do carbon fiber up here and they'll do an aluminum swing arm in the back. But the advantage of carbon fiber, yeah, it's a little lighter, but it just looks sexy. On these bikes, they're really beautiful if you see them up close. And on the Apollo, we decided to paint these, where we do these nice 2-tone paint on these. The company who makes these frames for us does a lot of the high-end frames, and I saw some of the paint jobs they did for other, big vendors, and I wanted to do a 2-tone paint. So this one's offered in red and blue, and if you look at it, the paint just looks amazing. And at certain times when we did these all carbon fiber, and I just kind of got sick of the carbon fiber look so much. And so even though the Apex, that's the only option, this one now, this year is red and blue, and that might change next year. We might go back to carbon fiber, or we might do another color. But anyways, so the advantage of this bike, it has the Ultra motor, which is, a workhorse. It's a really powerful, I think they have 35 amp stock, which, comes out to, 1800 watts. They're really powerful. The pedal assist works really smoothly. It's a hard motor to break, but it is a bulky motor, and ours are made out of magnesium, and I don't know how long we're going to be able to keep getting those from Bafang. So while we have them, you should grab them. And it's one of those bikes that we have a hard time keeping in stock because we assemble these all here. We have the frames made somewhere else, but we have to assemble them all. Kyle test rides every one before it goes out, and it's hard for us to keep up with the demand on these bikes. Right now we have a ton of frames, but we're behind on making them. So we're looking for mechanics, by the way. If anybody is in LA and wants a job, we're looking for people. So anyways, this is the Apollo, and again, it's a big statement piece. We don't make that many of them. When we do put them on sale, they don't last very long. I don't know how long we'll be able to keep doing this when, X1s are so popular, and we can get those made so much faster because they're not as much of an artisan effort as this is. So anyways, and again, it has quality components all the way around. It uses pretty much the same components as the X1, which is a SRAM Eagle for the driveline. Then it has Guide 4 brakes, which are my favorite brakes of all the brakes, and it has quality wheel package with Minion tires, Maxxis Minion tires, and quality everything. It has through axles, which is a big selling point with serious full suspension bikes. If you ever want to look at another brand of electric bike and see if they're serious or not, see if they're using through axles on their mountain bikes, because if they're using quick release, you can't really ride it off-road or jump with it ever. You know, so through axle is like a basic of a quality bike, and all of our bikes have them that I've showed you today. All right, and I think that's everything except the one bike that's different for us. Can you bring out the Sur-ron? Is the Sur-ron. And the Sur-ron's an interesting part of our history because it's not our bike. It was a bike that we found that was amazing, and it was hard to ignore this bike when it came out. And we made a deal to become the northern, not Northern California, but the northern, the whole United States and Mexico and Canada distributors of this bike for the first few years. And we've been selling it for 3 or 4 years now. And what I like about it is, even though it's not our style, it's not a pedal bike, you know, you can get pedal kits for them, but they're just made for legalities. They don't actually work. What we like about the bike is it's pure badass. The battery itself is beautiful. It's the only battery that we didn't make that I think is just amazing. You know, and it has, you know, a 40-mile range. It has 5,000 watts, so it's a real badass. And it, you know, they're reliable, and it's a different thing. It's like a dirt bike rider thing. I don't recommend that you ride this where mountain bike riders ride. You know, that you respect mountain bike riders who are riding on bicycles and using their own power. But it is a big seller for us. It feels like our product. We have a very tight partnership with Sur-ron in China. They're very good people. They make very good stuff, and we're really proud to have it on our lineup, even though it's totally different. Now, things that I like about it, it does have a mid-drive. It does have a gear reduction system so that the bike, you know, the motor spins fast and it's torquey. You know, it has wheeling power. You got to be careful because it does have enough power to throw you off of it. And, you know, it has quality suspension. RST is as good as you're going to get with Chinese-made components. And it has, I believe, a D&M in the back on this one, or RST in the back. Do you know? I don't remember. Yeah, this one has RST on the back as well. And, you know, it's a great suspension for the price point. A lot of people are upgrading theirs. You know, it's really hard to find something better than that, but you have to spend a lot of money right now until like somebody figures something out, you know. But right now, this bike for the money, I think we're selling it for $41 right now, which is super cheap for what you're getting. There's nothing on the market under 10 grand that can do what this bike can do. And so that's it. That's our lineup. And you know, I didn't realize how badass our lineup was until we got it all set up today. So I'm glad I could share this with you. And look at our new showroom. We are looking for sales guys. And the funny thing about Luna is we've never hired salespeople before, ever. So, you know, the people you get on the phone or email are support people. They're not really salespeople. And we made it this far without being too focused on sales. We've always been more focused on the engineering, on making badass products, and hoping that these will just sell themselves. So I hope this video helps explain some of our products and our bike lineup, and helps you decide if you're going to buy one of our bikes, you're supporting a good company, a good American company, and we really do have a good values, and we'll be here for you, and we'll keep making badass stuff. Thanks.